I'm Tom Richardson, BookNet Canada's Bibliographic Manager. I'm going to try and focus on one big thing and a couple of whoop-de-doos that need doing, but time to get to the perennial question. Onix 3.0. I can finally say that it's being used. The number in the slide represents about 2% of the 2.1 records that we have in BiblioShare, but it's real use. We're working with eBound Canada to ensure that we get their publisher data in both formats. And anyone who could submit both 2.1 and 3.0 should get in touch, as we want that 3.0 data so we can build services. BiblioShare's services still remain entirely supported by 2.1 data, but get in touch if you're interested in our 3.0 services in development. And I can also finally report that 3.0 is supported, with the caveat that it's not always wanted in North America yet. So I have to stress this emphatically. Never unilaterally change your data feed to a recipient without talking to them first. So I can report that Indigo has announced that they will have 3.0 support by early summer, but no one should think that they should just up and change their data without talking to them first. But the good news is that most major data recipients in North America are either really able to take 3.0 now somehow, or about to. But while it's supported, it's not much used outside of the digital supply chain. And for print products, the 3.0 feed is not much different than the 2.1 feed. So there is no incentive for the retailers to take the data in the new format because the fixes and support advantages that the new standard offers aren't actually being implemented. And this is going to become an issue because 2.1 is no longer supported. Its unique code lists are no longer updated. The ones it shares with 3.0 are updated, but no one considers 2.1 logic. And I mean, most any 3.0 code list update would work in 2.1, but it's not checked or considered. So there's possibly a problem upcoming. And development for over 6 years has only happened in 3.0. It's time to get serious about the transition because 2.1 is well and truly no longer supported. So nobody understands very well what that means, and that's kind of like the problem. Companies are confused why just converting the 2.1 file isn't enough to make a 3.0 feed, at least not if you want someone to bother loading it. So I'm going to try and show an example where 2.1 can be accurately mapped to a radically different structure from 2.1 to 3.0, no loss of data or anything else. It's a substantial change and makes no difference to anything. And then I'm going to work further along and have a look at one where there's a small change that might affect you, and then where there's actual issues in the transition to try and get you some sort of sense of what the transition means. And I get to change pages now and again. Okay, mapping is the simplest case. And most of the transitions that can be seen as a mapping change are the ones where the code lists are shared. So the contributor role code is shared between 2.1 and 3.0, and there's not a whit of difference between how you use them. Your current system is going to work perfectly well. Now, in the case of subjects, though, Onix 21 subjects are supported by 2 almost identical code lists, and then 2 elements that are there to provide it some kind of old support. Now, when you move to 3.0, that becomes a single structure with an insert that is made to differentiate between main subject and not main subject. So for the 2 occasions where you want a main subject, you put an insert into the structure, and otherwise it's just the same data structure in all cases. So that's a substantial problematic change for your programmers in terms of your use. I do not think it will make any difference at all to your data entry screens or anything else. You can convert 2.1 data to 3.0 data without any loss in any way. Now, work identifier is another simple change. This time the structure, I mean how you actually present the data in the file, remains identical. It's exactly the same in 2.1 and 3.0. But 3.0 shifts the composite in the file from the PR7 title area all the way down the record to a new section, P22 related materials, which is adjacent to the familiar related product section. Okay, you can see the logic, and that is one of the things that is a hallmark of 3.0. It's much more logical than 2.1 is. And the logic is a work identifier doesn't really describe a book's title. This move clarifies that this is a value that describes how the product is associated with other products. So one way that 3.0 improves, it's just more consistent. But within the related materials section, there is actually a new data point added of a way to differentiate between manifestation and derived, which are technical terms that librarians care a lot about, and you don't. So chances are your software will convert your 2.1 to 3.0 in some fashion or other, or your programmers will map. And the assumption will be made that it's a manifestation, and you will not actually see this data point in your data, which again is perfectly fine, because it's probably exactly how you mean it. And until somebody in the supply chain needs this piece of information, whether or not you're doing data entry or not is not terribly relevant. Okay, so there's two simple examples where your data doesn't change. But 3.0 is designed to solve problems in 2.1. And it's also designed to support international metadata by removing ambiguity. I have a little complaint with Joshua Tallent's presentation just before this, but that's secondary to this. But in some ways, some of what he was talking about handling international metadata is kind of different from what I'm going to be talking about. Okay. So here's a place where your data is probably going to actually have to change. Onix 3.0 simplifies things as a general rule, and in the case of set and series, the simplification came down to a simple question. Do you need to embed the series information in the book title, yes or no? If it's yes, there is a way to do it in the title composite, and if it's no, there is a collections composite that you can use. It's not much more complicated than that, but in effect, the title composite can be used to carry series information because it granularly can be presented there as part of the title. And if the series name is not integrated, then you just put it over into collections and get on with your life. The educational publishers would typically move things to collections because they're not usually used in the book title. Trade publishers typically put in the book title. But the point of the simplification is there is no duplication of series entries required in 3.0 metadata. The solution to the problem is basically simplification, and that's how it's been ordered. Chances are the data in your database cannot just magically be moved into that format. And I certainly don't see in BiblioShare much data presented that way. Okay, sales rights and marketing territory statements is almost a mapping change, but there's actually a specific change in philosophy in 3.0 where the idea is you should not have ambiguity in your metadata, and you should make clear, coherent statements. And in terms of actual practice in our supply chain, people have done an awful lot of game playing, particularly within the rights and territory statements, which hasn't been very, very good. I think the thing I want to stress about that is simply that the retailers are looking to load data from multiple sources. So somebody like Indigo is looking to load data from outside in order so they can build a better record. So you may be the distributor of a book that's available offshore. Indigo may be trying to load data from the source and also your data simultaneously. If you don't give them the right information in your file, or you falsify the data in some ways to represent the rights improperly, it's going to be a real big problem for them to merge the two. There's nothing very complicated about that. 3.0 has very straightforward ways for you to give the information accurately. Now, the exact details, not really have time for. Finally, there is new information available that you can present in 3.0. So I'll just highlight contributor place because it's important to our hearts. 8 code values to describe contributors, including citizens of and where they currently reside. And this is an answer to a perennial problem that has existed where librarians, retailers and things have always wanted to know where the author lives so that they can get, who can they get in. It should be in the metadata. This is like the very simple part of making ethnicity part of like the thing as was discussed this morning. So contributor place, easy way to do this. You associate a code value with a geographical location. And recently added in the last version update for Onix, location names. You can actually put the city name in as well as a code value for the geography. It wouldn't be a BookNet presentation without mentioning Canadian author. So in this particular case, this is how you represent a Canadian author in Onix 3.0. 0 rate for citizen of and a country code of CA and nothing else, which is a problem I can see in a lot of the data that's coming in where people are trying to stick region codes. I don't know what they're supposed to represent, but people are putting region codes in as well for provinces, as well as you know, as if you can kind of take the data that says citizen of and say, well, they must live here. I'm not, you know, there's a separate code for lives. Use the separate code, repeat the composite, and that's how it works. One of the other things I just wanted to bring up was IsMe, International Standard Name Identifiers. So this is one of these persistent identifiers that people keep wanting to use and things like this. And the reality is that most Canadian authors, in particular, because the Canadian librarians have been very good about this, have actually IsMes already assigned to them. If they have multiple books out in the supply chain, chances are they have an IsMe assigned to them. You just have to look them up. This website, which is, comes from the WorldCat people, it's simply a librarian authority database, but it has a dirt easy lookup system. Throw a person's name in the bar at the front at the page. You get taken to a few things that you can very easily and quickly identify that this is indeed your author. And if an IsMe has been assigned, it's sitting right there at the top of the page, labeled, and it's there. So I looked up randomly 4 authors, found an IsMe for 3 of them, and Aaron Knight, who's a published poet under journals, but as far as I know has only 1 book, did not have an IsMe assigned, which is kind of what I would expect. A brand new author, 1 book. The librarians wouldn't have created an authority for them yet because they haven't had multiple books to disambiguate, which is the technical term for telling the author apart. You know, Dan Brown, from Dan Brown, the other one. BISAC subject headings, you probably already know that they have changed. I think the basic message here is every retailer in North America has been forced to update their BISACs. So if you are a publisher and you are not updating your BISACs this year, you're making a mistake. Young adult or not, you need to update your BISACs this year because the retailers have updated their BISAC to be able to absorb the new BISAC young adult subject headings that were added. And 465 of them, I mean, it was a major effort on their part. They have all done it, including Apple, I have just learned this week. So you can start distributing this information anytime with reasonable safety. And that's a wrap. So, thank you.